I applied to a number of schools when I graduated PhD in 1962. I chose University of Louisiana Monroe, which was then called Northeast Louisiana State College, because they wanted to start a program in invertebrate zoology. And I said, my gosh, that fits me perfectly. I had no one to look over my shoulder and say, this is the way I did it, because it was brand new. So I spent the remaining 5 or 6 weeks I had in Stillwater, Oklahoma, collecting all kinds of vertebrate animals, not only fish, which was a big part of it, but rodents, mammals, salamanders, toads, frogs, snakes, all the vertebrates I could get a hold on, and packed them into a U-Haul trailer and headed to Monroe, Louisiana. I think probably the start of our amassing a pretty good collection of fishes would be we had a mountain field biology course in Batesville, Arkansas for 6 consecutive summers, starting in 1965, I think up through 1971, which we did nothing but collect lower vertebrates, amphibians, reptiles, lots of fishes. We were right on the White River, and we worked from dawn till well into the night. Every day we were up there. Then another factor that was, I think, instrumental in numbers would be the fact that we took an annual field trip to the pristine waters of eastern Tennessee, Virginia, North Carolina, a few in South Carolina, Alabama, each year for 22 consecutive years, about the same time each year, using about the same methods of collecting. So we were able to generate quite a base through the 22 years of environmental changes from trip to trip, from year to year. The major contributors were my students alone, my graduate students. Like I say, of the 71 students I had, I imagine, and I'm guessing that probably 3/4 of them did their work with fishes and fisheries biology. I had several institutions that we had exchange programs with. I'm thinking particularly about Carnegie Museum back in the 60s, 70s, and early 80s was a very highly respected museum for the research animals. Another one was Baylor University, had an active exchange program. We also were able to receive specimens from institutions that went through the same process that we just did when their collections were divested. Louisiana Tech University, just down the road, decided that they would divest most of their vertebrate collections. Mississippi State, at least in part, back in the early or late 90s, early 2000s. Over the last 30 years, this collection, the growth of this collection has been pretty much linear, with an increase in lots and species and numbers. As an example, our last entry before divestment last fall, I believe it was nearly in the close to 83,000 lots, which are jars, and each one of those jars or lots contain from 1 to as many as 2,000 individuals. So it's been estimated and extrapolated that we probably had in the neighborhood of 3 to 6 million specimens. Bear Corps of Engineers has provided many, many valuable specimens to what was our collection. primarily through their efforts with their collections through the lower Mississippi basin, because that's an area that I hurried over. It's not aesthetically pleasing. In fact, some of it I hesitate to even wade into. But through the years, hurrying to the pristine mountain rivers in Tennessee and North Carolina and so forth, I would pass them completely. So we did not have a good representative of the fishes of the lower Mississippi Valley. Through the many efforts of the Corps in their collections and their environmental work, they have really supplemented. I've had some really satisfying students through the years that have worked at rather high-level prestigious jobs through this particular endeavor. For instance, we've had secretaries of a state game and fish commission. We've had directors of zoos. We've had many in state government jobs dealing with fisheries. We've had a good number in the federal government dealing with fisheries, not only with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Corps of Engineers, and so forth, environmental groups. As a naturalist, I have no problem discerning the value of these collections of fishes, or for any natural history collection as such. Unfortunately, it's not shared by those that aren't actually educated in the field of natural science or biology or whatever. It's a constant struggle to try to get them to understand that we're dealing with a source here that's literally a library of, instead of books, of animals that can tell you so much about what was, what is, and what possibly will become by looking at the changes and looking at the populations from place to place throughout the years, determining if they have moved and why they have moved and what's the cause and so forth. There is so much can be learned, but I think in this day of environmental issues, it becomes even more valuable. And you wipe these things out, you've lost a great source of information. Another value of these collections would be the support that these collections give and the necessary entity to the fishes of books. I published fishes of freshwater fishes of Louisiana back in 1974 and relied greatly on our existing collections that we made from the state of Louisiana, incorporated into our collection to publish the book. And through the years, we've had fishes of Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, all of which at least have used our collection in part to supplement the at least distributional information from our collections. I've had the pleasure of working with several well-known ichthyologists. Carter Gilbert, Florida, comes to mind. Herb Beauchamp, Alabama. Dave Etnier, Tennessee. Mentioned Henry Robinson, dear friend of mine, and Royal Sutkus at Tulane. All of these individuals wanted desperately to learn and to discover. and that was their goal in life, to find something meaningful that would be beneficial to understanding the environment we live in. As we look at the present day, we're finding that as we lose our programs, our university programs in the field biologies, ichthyology, fisheries biology, and in turn losing our collections, we're having no recruitment. There's no one to follow us, to follow those previously mentioned, to continue this work of what we treasured through the years. The collection now has been divested to Tulane University, which certainly appreciated our plight and was my first choice. Since it's in this region, they already have a monstrous collection, which actually was a problem with many of the universities that would be interested in the fishes. They simply did not have room for such a massive collection. Tulane was able to do that. One of the problems that universities are faced with is the cost of maintaining such a collection. Today we're faced with space, because a properly arranged collection such as the ULM collection would occupy the better part of a football field, and that space is valuable to universities. The actual physical building has to meet certain standards for fire protection, and the compactors that come with the more modern collections today are costly. It's my hope that no collections will ever be totally thrown away, that someone will find a home for them. It looks like more and more they're going to go to well-established collections, and the smaller museum collections won't exist. As I recall my early years in the mountains of West Virginia, one of my favorite things to do was to accompany my father when he trout fished, and I think that's probably where I got my first real interest in fishes, when I was allowed to hold his catches, and I can see that enthusiasm that I had then portrayed with the young people that we have coming through the museum each day. They are amazed, they're excited, they want to see more and learn, and it's my hope that through the years it's not diminished, that they will have programs always to incite that interest in natural history.